Assalamu alaikum. Can you just raise your hand if you can hear, please?
Assalamu alaikum, ladies. Can you hear me? Let me know, please. All right, great. Admin, are we ready to start?
Yes, go ahead.
Right, thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. So Assalamu alaikum everybody, and welcome to this session on spiritual well-being, where we're discussing ways of maintaining our emotional well-being, how to be calm and sort of emotionally stable during the present crisis that we're going through. Today, inshallah, we will talk about dealing with tension. So there is no doubt that we are going through a certain type of tension, maybe some more than others, but this crisis is quite unprecedented, and we are experiencing emotions and feelings that we have perhaps not felt before. And that is very normal, very justified. So when we talk about these things about controlling ourselves and feeling better, it's not to minimize the effects of the crisis. There is no doubt that it will have an effect on us. We're just trying to handle it as best as we can. We're trying to seek comfort from us, from our beliefs, from our spirituality, from each other. And that is what human beings do in a situation that is unpleasant. Whenever there's a difficult situation in life, right, we need to try and see how best we can handle it without falling apart, right? And it's amazing, this resilience inside the human being, this ability that Allah has blessed him with, that he can manage his own emotions, that he can think about it and see what is it that I can do to help myself in this situation, so that we don't fall victims of, unpleasantness, negativity, misery, and sort of succumb to that type of emotion. So we are trying to help ourselves deal with it. What we're going to talk about today is tension, what it does to us, and how we can help ourselves deal with tension. So the question that I put up on the first slide is, when you think of the word tension, and there are some synonyms that I've put on the side, pressure, stress, strain, right? There's something that's pulling at us, right? We don't feel normal. And when we think about tension, it straight away brings up some negativity, right? It conjures up an image of something difficult to manage, something unpleasant, something I'd rather not have in my life, right? If it was up to me, I don't want all this tension in my life, but it's there and I have to deal with it. So the question is there another way to think about tension or stress for that matter? Can I put it in a different perspective, right? Have a different image of it. When I change my perspective, I change the emotions that I feel about it, right? It's as simple as that. It's just about changing your mind, changing your reaction, because remember, it's not the stressful situation, the stressor, that elicits the negativity. It's your reaction to the stressor that brings about negativity, right? So two people might react very differently to the same type of stressor, right? And that tells you that it's not the stress by itself. However hard and negative it is, a lot depends on your reaction to it, and that contributes to the negativity. So when we think about tension as a challenge. Let's put some different words to it, right? If I think of a stress in my life as tension, as a challenge, as a stimulant, perhaps, as growth, right? As a source of, bringing out some potential in me that I didn't even know I had, right? Something that I can do in stressful situations. And then I look back and I say, wow, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know, but God knows, right? God knows our inner potential, our inner strength, and He puts us through these challenging situations, which we would not if it was left to us. Well, we much prefer our easy, comfortable, relaxed life. We don't want all these tensions, all these stresses. But God knows that if I put this person or these people through this, there's going to be an outcome, right? They're going to rise, they're going to grow, they're going to become different. Life's going to be different for them, and it will be much better for them. So I can look at tension, a tense situation, a stress, as a challenge, as a growth stimulant, and that gives me a fresh perspective to it. So what are some possible causes of tension, especially in light of the present situation? Okay, what's causing tension personally to me, or in my house, or to my family? So there's a lot of uncertainty about the future. Maybe we had plans, right? We all plan. So I had some plans for next week. Maybe I had travel plans. Maybe I had wedding plans. Maybe I had, career plans, education plans. All of those not only are put on hold, but I don't even know when I'll be able to resume normally, right? We have no idea, right? And that, of course, brings about an inner tension within us. We have to understand that, and we have to identify it and, acknowledge it. There could be financial strain. Last time, I think somebody brought up the fact that what happens when you lose a job, right? There's no doubt about it that this situation will bring financial strain for a lot of people, right? Maybe you lose a job, maybe your job is not as much as it used to be. There are cutoffs, you don't know about the future, etc. So there's financial strain. There's relationship conflicts, and that's a big one, okay? People are stressed, and when you are stressed, you're more likely to get angry faster, right? You're more likely to snap at one another. You're less likely to, have a big heart and be patient. That's much harder to do during these times. Another factor, of course, is that we're all at home all the time, 24/7, right? There's no break from each other. There's no going away to work or going away to school. All family members are at home. Sometimes there's limited space at home. Sometimes there is, existing tension, which is now aggravated during this time, right? So definitely relationship conflicts are a big cause of tension in the present time. And then there's personal anxiety, there's worry, there's fear. What will happen? Will I get sick? Will my loved ones get sick? Will we end up in the hospital? Watching all that news and reading about it. Definitely one of the ways, and I think that's coming up in the chat box just now, one of the ways is watching less news, right? Because the more we watch, the more we read, the more we worry. So it's necessary to be updated about things, but I can't be listening to news all the time, even if I'm curious and I want to know. It's very, very detrimental to my emotional health if I do that all the time. Okay. So those are possible causes. There could be more for sure. Everybody's situation is unique, right? Somebody might have had a death in the family. Somebody might have illness in the family. There could be lots of different causes of tension. I need to identify, if I'm feeling very stressed and very tense, what are the causes of my stress? I need to be clear about those. Only then can I help myself. So what happens when there is tension? Okay, simple results which we're all familiar with, but again, we just want to, be very clear and concrete about these things. We want to know them. We want to identify them. One of the biggest things that Islam tells us all the time is to know yourself, to know your situation, to identify things, to see the raw material that God has given you to create a final, beautiful product, right? So I need to know, what are my triggers? What's happening to me? Why is it happening? How am I reacting? These are questions I need to ask myself in order to help myself grow through this, okay? So tension and stress can have a very physical result on the body. There is physical aches and pains, and it can actually impact you in a physical manner, right? So you think, oh my God, what's happening? Like, why is my back hurting so much? We might jump to conclusions. Is this another symptom? Or, how we are, right? We always become very morbid. We always jump to conclusions. And so you might feel tired. You might feel some pain somewhere. You might not have energy. And that could be a result of stress, okay? Stress and the body are very much related. There's irritability, you're quick to anger, the same things that you could take before and, laugh it off. Now you can't because you are very tense. You're restless. A lot of people have told me that they feel very restless in the sense that nothing seems to interest them for a long time. So they move from, one thing to another. They'll start reading and then they move on to something else, or, they start one chore and then they go on to another. And restlessness is a part of the tension that we might feel. So if I feel I can't focus and I'm really restless, I must know that the root of that, right? This is a symptom. It's not the root. I need to identify the root. The root of that is I'm stressed. Why am I stressed? I need to ask myself and then do something about it. Okay. Sometimes my thoughts are racing so fast, right? I'm just constantly thinking. And yes, we need to think, but we need to relax the mind also. We need to stop this flow of thoughts, right? And focus, meditate, right? A lot of people have brought up meditation as a tool to help us through this crisis. And when we are praying, when we are focused on our salat and our du'as, etc., in a way, we are meditating. We can also try sessions of pure meditation, of yoga, of any breathing exercises, relaxation, etc., which help us. But an ideal time to really meditate and relax is when you are connecting to God. On your musalla, now that you have time, there's no rushing, there's no deadline, okay? Spend time on your musalla and appreciate the fact that you have this time, right? That God gave you a chance to connect with Him at leisure, and use that time to calm your mind, to stop that constant flow of thoughts, and just give yourself up to God and, just say, God, help me deal with this. I know you can. That is a big de-stressor, right? It really allows you to sort of unburden yourself and feel much lighter. So an overworked mind, when you're constantly thinking, and moving from thought to thought, a chain of thoughts which doesn't stop, you need to get a hold of it, right? Another result could be gloominess. Everything seems negative. Everything seems, oh, what's the point, right? That's also a result of being too stressed, because we're not like that naturally, right? My natural self is a positive self, okay? It's only circumstances, external influences that have covered my inner nature and that have made me this gloomy, pessimistic, negative person. So I need to unveil those, to remove those curtains and realize that this gloominess is not in line with hope in God and trust in God. So those were some results of what happens when we're very tense most of the time. I want to share with you a couple of scenarios from the Quran about people who were stressed. Okay, remember, Quran is a great source of tranquility for the human being. The Quran itself tells us that it is shifa'un lima fis sudur. It's a cure. It's a medicine for what is in the hearts, for the diseases of the heart, and stress and negativity is one of the diseases of the heart, right? And to cure that, to help myself, Quran is a spiritual medicine. And when I take from it, I feel better, right? I can read passages, I can read surahs, I can read one verse and just focus on that, right? I don't always, sometimes people ask, do I have to read the translation or should I just read Arabic? Should I just read the translation or is the Arabic necessary? Of course, the Arabic is the original Quran, and reading that, reciting that, listening to it, that sound has an impact on you. The vibes that come out from the words of God, the original words of God, especially when it's recited beautifully, okay, it has an effect on you. And so recite it in Arabic, listen to it, but also understand it. Also look for passages that will inspire you, verses that will inspire you. So I want to share with you two passages, and you can check these verses for the whole entire passage. I've just shared a couple of verses from the passage. So this is in Surah Yusuf, and it talks about Nabi Yaqub when he lost not only Yusuf, when Yusuf alayhi salam was hidden from him. I mean, he hadn't died, but he was lost, and then he loses Benjamin also, and this is a hard loss for him. Right? Nabi Yaqub, as we all know, was very grief-stricken. He wept so much, right? And so his other sons tell him, how long will you weep? Like, why are you weeping so much? Why are you being so emotional? In our language, we could put it like that. Why are you so stressed and emotional about this? Get a hold of yourself. Basically, that's what they told him, right? And see his reply. قَالَ إِنَّمَا أَشْكُ بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. I only complain of my suffering and my grief to Allah. I'm not complaining to you. I am only doing it to my God, who knows my grief, who understands me, and who will receive me. I open up my heart to God. This is what Nabi Yaqub is teaching us in this verse, that whatever stress you have, whatever emotion you're feeling, right, open it up when you talk to God. And he says, I only complain of it to God. وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And I know from God what you don't know. I know that he can help me. I have hope in him. I have trust in him. And that is why I go only to him. Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahjul Balagha in letter number 31, it's beautiful where he says that God has given you the keys of the heavens and the earth. And he has told you to, open up yourself to him. And he says, when you have a fear, you open up. When you have a grief, you come to me. When you're worried, when you're stressed, it's almost like God can counsel us. He's our counselor, our therapist, however you want to think of him, right? We can go to him and open up. Nabi Yaqub says, I am only complaining of my grief to God. And then see what he says. Oh, my sons, go and find out about Yusuf and his brother, and despair not of relief from Allah. Indeed, no one despairs of relief from Allah except the disbelieving people. So now he's giving them a concrete strategy, right? Something physical to do. It's not just about crying and weeping and talking to God and spiritual and emotional help. It's also like do something about it. So yes, this is causing us stress. I'm going to talk to God about it. You go and look for Yusuf and his brother. And don't say there's no point. Have hope and don't despair. This is the practical strategy that Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam teaches his sons about coping with overwhelming emotion and stress. Another scenario from the Quran, right? This is the mother of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. And it's one of the passages that I had given you last time. I don't know if you got to it, but it's one of the most inspiring passages of the Quran, I find personally. It's just the way God talks to a very emotional woman, right? You might say a very stressed out woman. How he helps her, how he treats her so tenderly, so gently, so lovingly. He doesn't dismiss it as, why are you being emotional? Get a hold of yourself. No, this is a very compassionate understanding of emotion. Okay. And again, the whole passage, you can explore it at your leisure. It's from verses 7 to 13. But I've just brought out 2 verses to focus on exactly what she did, or what God did for her. So it says, and the heart of Musa's mother became empty of everything else. The Arabic word, if you look at it, وَأَصْبَحَ فُؤَادُ أُمِّ مُوسَى فَارِغًا. The word farigh is empty, yes. It also means drained, right? Everything's come out of it, like she has no energy. She can't think anymore, right? All she can think about and worry about is her son, her baby, right? So Allah says this is how she has become, this is her emotional state. And she was so close to disclose him. She was so close to saying, this is my baby. Because this was when they found the baby, the family of Pharaoh and the group from Pharaoh's place, when they found the baby and she was watching, she knew it was very close that she would have disclosed it. But what did Allah do? Laula an rabatna ala qalbiha. Had we not fortified her heart, had we not bound fast her heart. I want you to focus on that word, rabatna. Rabata means to tie hard or to strengthen, to make very firm. God says, we made her heart firm. So it's something that we can hold on to and say, God, the way you made her heart so strong, the heart of Nabi Musa's mother, make my heart also like that. Make my heart so firm and strong that I don't give in to these tensions and negativity. Right? Rabatna ala qalbiha. Remember, this was after he had inspired her. If you read the whole passage, you'll see in verse 7, he had inspired her and told her that breastfeed your baby, put him in the water. We will return him to you. He's going to be a messenger. He had spoken to her through an inner voice. Despite that, she did what she was told and she had faith in God. But after all, we are human beings. Even if we have yaqeen in God, even if we have trust and we have faith, right? We will have these emotions sometimes. If you look at Nabi Musa's story, when he goes to the court of Fir'aun, he knows God is with him. God has sent him to Fir'aun. Even then, Quran says he felt a tinge of fear. Quran actually says that he wa'awjasa khifatan Musa, like Nabi Musa felt khifa, like a small khawf, right? What does that tell you? That tells you human beings are prey to emotions. Rasulullah was overcome with grief, and Allah tells him, you will kill yourself with grief worrying about these people. You're only a warner, right? Don't be so grief-stricken. So that tells you prophets went through that, the families of the prophets went through that, believers go through that, we will also go through that. It doesn't mean we don't have faith when we go through this. It doesn't mean like, what's wrong with me? No, this is how we are. I just need to handle it. Okay. So Allah strengthens her heart so that she may be from the believers. And then she also thinks of a practical coping strategy. She's not just going to mope around and brood on her fears. She calls her daughter and she says, right, follow him. So she watched him from a distance while they perceived not. And then you know how the story unfolds, how she tells them that I can bring you a woman who will breastfeed him, and she brings her mother, right? But Nabi Musa's mother went on to think of what can I do to help myself in this situation. And so it's an excellent example for us when we are in an emotional situation like we are in the present time. So some practical suggestions. I'm sure you're trying some of these and you know these. This is just a reminder. Again, this is just putting it concretely in front of us. What from this am I not doing, right? What can I do more of? Which one really strikes me as something that I need, right? That I can relate to. We're all unique individuals. Our circumstances are different from each other. I can't compare myself to you and say, look, you're doing so well, then what's wrong with me? No, your situation's different, your personality is different, my situation's different, my personality is different. So I need to explore ways of helping myself rather than compare with other people. Okay, so first very important thing is to look after our diets. We need to see what we're eating. When we're stressed out, we may reach out for comfort foods, right? Some sweets, some cake, some cookies. Not to say we shouldn't be having that, but definitely if we are having a lot of unhealthy foods, our stress level is going to rise, right? It's very much linked. Mu'mineen, our body and our heart, right? Our physical and our spiritual, all of these are very, very linked, okay? And so I need to eat healthy foods. I need to eat raw foods, fruits, salads. I need to drink more, okay? All those things that we've always been told, we need to take extra caution about it, okay? Believe in yourself. Have confidence that you can rise to the challenge. Don't fall down and collapse and say, I can't do this. This is beyond me. Okay. When we believe in ourselves, when we have healthy sense of self-esteem and self-confidence, knowing that God has given us, it's not my own smartness. God has equipped me with certain abilities and God has certain expectations of me. So I can be patient. I can make peace at home. I can become, more positive. I can do it, right? If I can tell myself I can do it, I can see myself through this crisis without completely becoming negative all the time, right? I need to believe that I can do it. Another one is to practice self-care. We women often don't look after ourselves. We look after everybody else and we feel we don't need to look after ourselves. Islam says we all need to look after ourselves. We all need to spend time on ourselves. What that does is it boosts us, it rejuvenates us, and it gives us more energy to do the other things that we need to do. So many times I've shared hadith with you, which says spend time for God, spend time for work, spend time for people, and then spend time for yourself. Not in equal amounts necessarily, but spend time for yourself because that will help you with the other three. Okay, that's what hadith actually says. And self-care can be different things. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to take a whole day. No, it can be a small thing, but it's something that makes me feel better. Okay. I need to do that. And I think I mentioned this last time also. We must do that every day, a little bit of something that really lifts my spirits and makes me feel good. Then I am emotionally stronger. Okay. I need to read to broaden my horizons. So not just read the news or not just read what I've always been reading. Perhaps branch out. Perhaps if I'm interested in something I've always been interested, never had the time, read. Yes, maybe I can't get books from the library just now, but there's so much online, so many articles online that I can explore. Reading takes me to another world, right? Makes me a different person, okay? Reach out for companionship. We've kept saying that, right? Reach out to friends, to family, talk to them, discuss what you're doing, what they're doing, do it together, have a buddy system, right? Share things and thoughts, etc. So companionship is great to help you release the tension in your life. Think of others. This is big, right? Think of others who are so much more stressed out than you are, right? Think of all those frontline workers and what they are facing just now. Think of people in Africa, in India. You read all these or you see all these reports of people facing such horrors, right, during this crisis. At least we are not going through that type of stress and tension, right? When I think of them, automatically I become grateful for my situation. I think of what is it that I can do for them. Can I at least pray for them, right? And sort of feel their pain, okay? And ask God to relieve them. The poor are the ones who are suffering, not us, right? They are the ones who are really bearing the brunt of this crisis, okay? So let us not indulge and wallow in, all this stress and tension when there are so many millions of people so much worse off than us, okay? And then seek help from spiritual resources, duas, spiritual articles, Quran recitation, certain namazes, prayers, right? All of these are a rich treasure that we have, and that helps us to release this tension that we might be feeling, okay? I've spoken for more than half an hour, so I don't want to go on because I would like to leave some time for question and answers. I have put up, and I knew I would not get to it, but I've put up some scenarios which perhaps you can read later. These slides will be put up on the website, or maybe you can just read it or take a picture just now, but it's just some daily life examples, scenarios for us to think about. This may be happening in our lives, or it may be happening in the lives of people we know. It's good to think about it and see how this person can help herself. What can she do? What are some strategies, some coping strategies that this person in this particular scenario can use? It's a good one to use with a friend or a group perhaps to discuss it and sort of brainstorm some ideas on things that these people can use to cope with their situation. So I've put 2 scenarios up. Again, you could think of many other scenarios perhaps, but it's a good idea to practically think of scenarios and then see how we can help ourselves in those scenarios. Okay. I've also put some readings, particularly on the Quranic verses that I put up today. These are very good articles, scholarly articles, but good to read. I mean, I'm not vouching for the content really. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the people who wrote them. They're educated people who have written it, and I really liked what they wrote, but I am not saying these are authentic sources, okay? So that's just a disclaimer. But I think it will really help to read this to gain more insight into these verses and what we've been talking about. So the first one is about the mother of Nabi Musa, and she really writes very well, very beautifully, in depth about this whole passage about the baby Nabi Musa and the reaction of the mother. And then the second one is a very long one, so you can read it or you can read it in parts, but again, it's a very well written one about coping with grief and different negative emotions. And the author brings up the grief of Nabi Yaqub as an example, the grief of the prophet as an example, and then she talks at length about dealing with it. Okay, so I just thought that these were good ones, which I wanted to share with you. And then, as always, if you have questions after we finish this, please feel free to write to me, and I will get back to you, inshallah. And then the slides and recordings of these talks can be found on the Ladies Religious page, Religious Advisor page on the ISIJ website. Okay. So before I hand over to admin for the questions that have been raised today, I just want to very quickly, I know we're always tight for time, but I want to quickly go over a few questions that were raised last time that I didn't get to, and I want to sort of answer them. Again, if you raised that question and you're here today and you feel that I didn't spend enough time answering your question, you're very welcome to write to me, and maybe then we can, I can write to you, or perhaps we can even talk if need be, okay? So the first one was, how do you reaffirm your true purpose of life, which is getting closer to God? It's hard to remember that all the time, especially in the crisis that we are facing today. So reaffirming your purpose is just reminding yourself, right? How do you do that every day? I mean, definitely we do that when we pray, when we really connect to God. And like I keep saying, we need to connect to God all the time, even as we go about doing all that we have to do, okay? As we see nature or observe some things, we're just connecting it to God, and that reaffirms that really life is all about God. So I would say it's really through reminding yourself constantly. It's a good idea to have some short verses of Quran or a phrase of a dua that you recite every day as your daily motto, like you every day, this is the slogan that you live your life by. So you say that in the morning, you say that in the evening, you say that before going to sleep, and you can choose what it is that you want to, but it's a reminder. So have like a personal verse of Quran or phrase of dua or some dhikr of God that's yours to, to internalize and to live by, right? That makes it very practical for you to remind yourself constantly, okay? How can we be motivated for the future when we are scared of the past? Okay. I don't know if the questionnaire meant scared of the past or scared of the present, okay? But whatever it is, remember to live in the now is really important, right? So we'll try to live in the present. The past is there. It might have scared us, or it might have scarred us, right? But it's there to learn from and then make the most of today. I need to ground myself in today. Yes, I plan for the future, but I don't need to worry about the future. I trust in God, who will help me if I make the most of my present, right? If I help myself now, God will help me in the future. So one way of doing that is making the most of the present. Okay. And the last question from last week's session is, how can we tell if we have improved in a situation, like in a test or like in a current situation? How do I know I'm improving? Again, that's very much to do with your emotional state, right? If I find I'm becoming more positive, I'm becoming more relaxed, I'm becoming more focused, I'm less prone to anger, irritability, negativity, I just feel stronger, right? It's just realizing the state of your heart as such. And when you feel better, then definitely you're improving, because the crisis hasn't gone away. It's still there, okay? We keep being told the peak is still to come. So yeah, it's there. But if I feel that when I wake up in the morning and as I go through my day, I'm a little bit better about it, right? I can handle it, then for sure I have improved by the grace of God. Okay. So I'll hand it over to admin to tell us the questions that have come up today. So admin, are you going to read the questions?
Assalamu alaikum. We have a couple of questions here. The first one is that the tension and negativity that we have, is it innate in us or do we build it ourselves?
All right, so I won't say that it is innate, especially a high level of stress. Certain reactions God has kept in us, right? So there are emotional states. God has, maybe you could say he has wired us in a certain way, okay, to feel certain things. But the choice of indulging in that emotion is ours, okay? So like I gave you the example of the fear of Nabi Musa or the grief of the Holy Prophet, right? So those were natural emotions. What does that tell you? That comes, right? Naturally. Even a prophet feels that grief or that fear. But did they stay in that for so long? That's the crucial part. How long do you indulge in it? God has given you the emotion, but he has given you the aql to recognize it, and he has given you the ability to counter it. Okay? So I would not say that prolonged stress and tension is innate. It's not a natural state.
The second question we have is that sometimes we do du'as and talk to Allah, but it is impossible to move or put into actions. Please give us your thoughts on this.
It's impossible to put it into action, is that
right? So sometimes we converse with Allah, we do du'as, but then it's impossible for us to then take action on it or do something that would positively motivate us. How can we put this into action?
Mm-hmm. So remember that dua is one part of the equation, right? There is dua and then there is, as they say, dawa, right? So I do the dua part, but then a part of the solution rests with me. I need to do an action. I don't expect God to just do everything for me. Yes, he will help me, but if I help myself, right? So I need to take the initiative. Perhaps I need to force myself. And I think we talked about that in the first session, this idea of forcing yourself to do something that you don't want to do, okay? You don't feel motivated. You just, almost become comfortable in that negativity. To rise out of it takes effort, and you don't want to put in that effort. You don't have it in you, but you force yourself. You sort of take a step back from yourself and look at yourself as an outsider and say what it is that you need to do, and then make yourself do it. When you just take a small step of doing that, you will feel the help that comes from God to do more of that. Okay, but you definitely need to take that step. Don't think I've done my dua, so now the answer should come. No, you also need to take a step. Okay.
Okay, we have a comment here, which I guess we can share as well. Somebody stated that when they get really worked up about family or frontline workers or about cases in areas like Pakistan or India, they put the Quran on, specifically Surah Baqarah, before they go to sleep, and they feel that it totally calms them when they wake up. So that's a comment to share. The next question we have is, do you have a dua you would recommend for hope? I feel that it is needed, especially when we're going through this situation, to remain positive and keep hope alive. Is there a dua that you would recommend?
So a lot of the du'as give us hope, right? In fact, every dua that you recite talks about trust in God, calls upon God to answer us, so the hope comes from understanding that and sort of really meaning it with your full heart. Now if you want specific examples, dua number 7 from Sahifa Sajadiya, and again that's in the list of last week's slides, okay, that's a very good one, where Imam talks about God, you are the one who unties the knots, right, in my life, and the way he calls upon God and places hope in him. So I would definitely recommend dua number 7 from the Sahifa. The munajats, when you look at the whispered prayers again in the Sahifa, okay, those are very, very beautiful. Honestly, I'm telling you, it can transform yourself. It can transform your spiritual connection when you read those and you really feel them. It can bring tears to your eyes. It can soften your heart. So read those. And there is a specific one on the whispered prayer of those who hope in Allah, Munajatul Rajin. Again, if you look at the index of Sahifa, you should be able to find it. Dua Mashlul is another commonly recited one. Dua Mashlul calls upon the names of God, mentions verses of Quran that that say, God, you have said, call me and I will answer you. You have promised. This is what you've done for prophets in the past. And so you're like holding God to those promises that he has made, and then you're saying, answer me. Yeah? So that is also very beautiful, very powerful to bring about hope.
Another question that we have is, I have found it very difficult to find time for self-care, especially during this time when, alhamdulillah, we have a full house. I find I'm needed for the kids and just focusing on the house, cooking, cleaning, as well as helping out my husband. I don't even get time for spiritual care. As a result, I find myself getting easily frustrated, and then I feel guilty because we're more fortunate and blessed because there are others struggling and don't have the same luxuries we have. What can you advise?
I would say you definitely need to do something about it. So perhaps one suggestion would be to communicate with your spouse, with the children, depending on the ages of the children, if that is possible. Okay, sometimes, I mean, they may not be understanding, or they may just brush it off. I don't know. But if you can, okay, if you can talk to them about it and see how they can help you, right? Don't think you have to bear this burden alone, right? I think we women expect that we need to do everything and still put on a very like strong face, right? I don't know if it's the culture, if it's our culture that has put that in us, if it's the expectations of people around us and we've just like gone by with them, right? Gone along with them. But that's not what Islam expects from us. It doesn't expect this like perfect wife and mother who can manage everything and still have a smile on her face. So let's not have these, these false like illusions of what we can do. So talk to your spouse and see if he can help a little bit. Not help as in do something, but just take over for the children while you have maybe half an hour to yourself at least, just alone to do whatever it is that you want to do. Or if that's not possible, maybe the children can be watching something like or doing something on the internet, technology, etc. And you actually use that time for yourself. You can do the cooking and the cleaning when they're around. It's okay, right? But for some private time, you need them occupied, okay? Sit outside in your backyard. If you have a a backyard and the weather is good, alhamdulillah, these days. And that's a big plus, isn't it? That it's not winter just now and it's, spring and getting close to summer, inshallah. And although the weather might not be very warm, but it's still nice enough for you to take a walk outside, to sit in your backyard, to just be quiet in a garden or whatever you have outside. So think of some things that you can do around this situation, right? Don't give up on it, because that's very crucial for yourself and for your family. I mean, you're not just doing this for yourself, you're doing it for them, you're doing it for God, you're doing it so that you can be a better servant of God. Okay.
That's all the questions we have had. We've got quite a few comments coming in through the chat, where people are just stating what works for them in terms of different du'as and recitations, allowing them to put their trust in God and feel a bit calm. But as far as questions are concerned, those are all the questions.
All right. Okay, so thank you, ladies. Inshallah, God help us through this. Tonight is a very special night. Kushali Mubarak to everybody. Let us remember each other in our prayers tonight, and let us especially pray that God may relieve the world of this crisis, and especially for those who are really suffering. It breaks the heart when you see these images of people suffering so much in the world today, right? There's so many repercussions of what's going on apart from the sickness itself, right? And so we pray that God may ease their burden and their grief and their pain, and that He may reward them for what they're going through. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.